Thank you. It is assumed that you are giving your consent to share the recording of this meeting on the social media pages. A very good evening to everyone present here. This is Nikita Meghani from our very own prestigious Kirorimal College. We have all gathered here today, virtually of course, for an extremely enlightening session by Mr. Shubham Agarwal, who is a golden graduate peer of ours, transition from campus to corporate world. I'm sure that we all have been eagerly waiting for this day since we have now stepped towards the 5th day of the KM Elma Connect 2021 celebrate the Founders Day week. With this, I officially welcome our precious guest and request Seema ma'am to please take over.
Good evening, everyone. What I can observe today from the participants is that there are more participants from first years. So I think it will be highly appropriate if I brief all of you about the background of this event. If I look at the composition of our target group today, I can find that there are many new entrants to our college who are here participating. So I want to share with you that we celebrate Founders Day of KMC on February 1st every year. This year, Kirorimal College Alumni Network has been formed. So we thought of having a week-long celebrations of Founders Day. We begin our program on the eve of January 31st this year. Today, we have entered 5th day of this ongoing Founders Day week celebrations. Those who have been regularly attending panel discussions and sessions designed and organized by this book must have understood by now that how and why it is important to celebrate our young alumni achievers. You must have realized by now how apt is the theme for this week-long celebrations chosen by this network. I would like to share with you that at KMC, we had a long cherished dream to engage and involve our alumni to benefit our current juniors through their wealth of experience and skill sets. This KMC Alumni Network is acting as a bridge between the alumni and the current students. This connecting arrangement would have been a distant dream for all of us without the sensitivity, stand, and support of our principal ma'am. We at KMC Alumni Network very well understand the significance of having a young nation. I had written in one of my articles a few years back to quote, "The developed world is experiencing rapid aging, a rising dependency ratio, and shrinking youth population. However, countries like India are showing the rise in the relative size of population in the economically active age group. In 2009, 64% of India's population was in the working age group, and this share is expected to rise in near future. This phenomenon of emergence of a large youthful population that is young population bulge can be a window of opportunity for India to harness the energy of the youth to fuel economic and social development and to bring in demographic dividend, unquote. That is the reason we have been striving hard to ensure learning continuity of our students through this knowledge sharing platform, even during these uncertain and difficult times. We want to assist our students in overcoming their COVID-triggered anxieties through their continuous involvement in academic and experience sharing sessions carried out through this network. We also know that exchanging information and experiences is crucial so that we can learn from each other. Aiming at holistic development of our students through this platform so that they can reach their full potential. I'm fully hopeful that these sessions will provide many inspiring moments and plenty of cause for reflection. We at this Kirorimal College Alumni Network are looking forward to foster and promote close relations among the young alumni themselves. We are expecting that our very own alumni will play an active role in programs like mentoring students in their areas of expertise. We expect that they will also play a significant role in contributing scholarships to deserving students. I'm very happy to share with you that Ms. Divya Surana, who is currently working with PwC, an alumna of KMC and IIM Indore, and junior of our today's speaker, has already expressed her deep desire for contributing to this cause. We are giving an opportunity to our very own alumni to give back to their alma mater as a sign of their gratitude and affinity towards this institution. With these words, I extend a very warm welcome to another young alumnus of KMC, Mr. Shubham Agarwal in KMC Alma Connect 2021. Shubham, we want to celebrate your achievements together today in this event. Now I request our principal ma'am to kindly deliver her welcome note. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Joshi. And many, many thanks to our alumni and our present students for making this series of talks possible. This has been something actually we have been planning for a while, but I think it is the energy that Dr. Joshi has and the students, the alumni, the young, energetic minds, when we managed to get together, it is then that it became possible for all of us to meet like this. We realize that our alumni actually are very precious and a treasure. And as the young alumni have a very special place in our hearts because we see them actually as stepping into the future, but also making future. And our present students are that group of young people who again we are extremely fond of. I want to use this opportunity to just let them know that we care about them. And we have been very keen to bring something extra to them outside what they get in the classroom. And Dr. Joshi is correct. COVID-19, we tried to make best of what was possible, but all of us also feel a bit dissatisfied. And we therefore, actually, it was basically her energy and direction because of which we turned to our young alumni who spun this whole web of talks and have been talking to our students. And it's with great pleasure really that I have been watching this. I am out of Delhi right now and still in a meeting, but I excused myself for about 10 minutes to just come and say hello and hi and thank all of you. And also to meet Shubham Agarwal, our alumnus from BCom Honors class of 2017, who will be introduced, of course, in further more detail. And what he's talking of is something that is a concern for all of us, which is transition from campus to the corporate world. And in college, actually, all of us are pretty keen to hold our hands of our students and take them forward. Keep them in college, but yet do something which will make them walk a path of career, a profession they would be satisfied with once they leave college. In a way, translate what they learn in classrooms into real life and make a satisfying career out of this. It's not a very simple thing because in many ways college is protected and the world out there, the young kids have to confront themselves, find their own way and methods of dealing with it. And it is this that our young alumni are doing. So it is most suitable that they should be talking to our students. So once again, thanks, my warm thanks to everybody who is here, including the participants. You can think of doing whatever you like in college. And also to the alumni, if they could just also take this further. And we'd like to put something in college. I'm not sure what it will be. I have some idea, something in college, some system, some kind of place, some kind of maybe a corner in college that in some way could help our students once they leave college and start looking for themselves. So best of luck for today's evening, and thank you very much, and enjoy yourself.
Thank you very much for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you so much for your kind words, ma'am. It's a pleasure to have you here. Taking the meet forward, I must now introduce our elevated guest. Presently working as a rating analyst at CRISIL, Mr. Shubham Agarwal has impressive wealth of experience in the fields of finance and management. He did his Bachelor of Commerce honors degree from Kirorimal College in 2017, where he was a senior coordinator at the Commerce Society and also got interned with significant organizations. Further, he pursued MBA from IIM Indore as the batch of 2019. He has also qualified the two levels of Chartered Financial Analyst examination, one of the most reputed and globally recognized, with remarkable scores. It's an honor and a golden opportunity to hear from you, Mr. Shubham. I welcome you to this virtual platform for exchanging knowledge. With this, I now formally ask you to begin with the session.
So thank you everyone. Thank you Nitika, thank you Vibha ma'am, thank you Seema ma'am for the kind introduction and warm welcome. Firstly, my sincere gratitude to Seema ma'am for inviting me here, for considering me to be worthy of sharing my wisdom on this platform to the students. And kudos to the organizing team and all the students who have teamed up and realized this, actualized this, even in the tough times like the pandemic. For this speaker session, I attended the session yesterday, and I also viewed the panel discussion of the first day, and it was indeed it's a wonderful initiative, I would say. And having done my post graduation, I must say, even if you're not realizing the importance of this now, an alumni connect is what really separates an institute from others. And even in my limited corporate journey, I have around 2 years of experience. Connects with other alumni have really helped a lot. So, with this, good evening to all the students. So, I have been in your shoes just a few years ago, and I also wish that I could have had these interactions with an alumni. So, I urge you to make the best use of this session by thinking about your questions that you'd like to ask. And I hope this is just the first touch point, and we have many more interactions, formal and otherwise, going forward. So, just a disclaimer, since this is a virtual medium, I can't really gauge your mood or the audience's reactions. So, do let me know if I need to raise my voice or speak softer or slower. And hopefully, I don't end up boring you with a monologue. I like to keep this more interactive and free flowing if possible. So, before we dive into the talk itself, let me give you a brief overview of what I'm going to present today. So I will start with an experience sharing session. My journey as a student at Kirodimal when I was into your shoes to where I am now today. And I'll try to, more importantly, I'll try to explain my thought process behind the decisions, the key career decisions that I took. And now, with the benefit of hindsight, how these decisions have helped me shape as an individual, as a professional. The next portion will address the main topic, the transition from campus to corporate, and the key skills I think which are required to smoothen that transition. And after that, we can have a live Q&A with the audience. And I also urge you to leave questions in the chat along with the talk itself. And I'll see if I can, like I already see someone is very active and has put in a question. And I'll try to answer those questions simultaneously as well, or otherwise at the end. So let's start with a trip down memory lane. So let's rewind back to my second year. That was 2016 when I was a student. So the morning 9 a.m. accounting class got over. My friends and I, we are relaxing in the library lawn. We are sipping hot coffee. Mind you, not from the normal canteen, but from the hostel canteen. And we are just enjoying the weather, not a care in the world. So a person approaches us in the library lawn. And this is not our beloved Tinguji Bhaiya. I hope he's doing well, but someone approaches us for cat coaching. So now suddenly we are confronted with a first big professional decision. So whether to go sign up for MBA prep now, and a related question whether to sign up for coaching or not. So I'll tell you first how I made that decision. So I was reasonably sure that I wanted to do an MBA eventually, maybe not right after graduation, but that seemed like the best career path for me. And also, I had a lot of free time back then, and my friends are also signing up. So it was more of a why not and a whimsical decision. But now, with the benefit of hindsight, I can say, see what MBA entrance prep is. It's actually essentially an aptitude test. You are tested for your verbal ability, your logical reasoning skills, etc. And these are important skills and ability that stay with you. And these will just sharpen your mind. Even if you do not want to do an MBA or anything else, these are just basic concepts which will always help you. So even if you apply for jobs right now, there will be many aptitude tests as part of the recruitment. And the best part is you don't forget these. Like I'm pretty confident if I gave CAT even right now, I could confidently get a very good score. And the story is same for group discussion or interview preparation. You'll have to do it down the line sometime. So why not start now? And I'll not dive deep into that because I think the first panel discussion had covered it in depth, but would take any questions if you like. So the next decision, whether to take coaching or not. So I urge you to separate the peer pressure element aside. So many times we take decisions like five of my friends are joining for coaching, let me also join. Please separate that. Think about how you best learn. So first, personally, I'm a visual learner and I learn best in a classroom setting where I can ask Seema ma'am for clearing my doubts, or someone can personalize the learning according to my ability. So I do not operate best by self learning from books. So that's the reason why I joined coaching. And the study schedule they give, that helped me to stay consistent and counteract the tendency to procrastinate, which I'm sure many of us can relate. So that's why I did coaching. And I urge you to think in a similar manner and not be flowed away by peer pressure. So, coming to the next decision, let's fast forward to the middle of my third year. So, this is the key grinding time in the student life. Uh, the CAD prep or any other CA prep is going in full swing. You are preparing for on campus interviews, you're thinking about what steps to do next. So, the next key decision I was confronted with was which B schools to apply, which MBA institutes to apply, which exams to actually appear for. While we say it's CAD coaching, if you have been down this path, you know there are many other options. So personally, it was my first attempt, and having been an alum of Kirodimal College, I thought nothing beyond the top 10 B schools of India would add value to my curriculum vitae. And I was scoring well in the mocks at that point, with more scope to improve. So I didn't want to settle. So that was my thought process. So let's take an example. We all know the conventional rankings of B school. Let's consider FMS, a prestigious neighbor, as an example. So no one can argue that it's one of the best B schools in India. But let's take a step back and think, is FMS the best for me personally? Me being a Delhiite, born and raised in Delhi and did all my education from Delhi, and who wishes for a hostel, independent hostel experience in another city and a proper campus experience, and who has already been exposed to the life of DU, the fairs, the competitions, and all that. So maybe FMS might not be the best choice for me personally. But don't get me wrong. On the contrary, if someone is a budding entrepreneur who doesn't want to take a loan for an MBA, they were from another town, given the location advantage and the low fees, FMS might even actually be better than IIM Ahmedabad for them. So my point is, this is very contextual, and consider your own unique circumstances before making such decisions. So, lastly, I want to give you an alternate view on MBA, what MBA actually is. Forget the placements, forget the what you learn, the subjects. After doing an MBA, I realized that I, till that point, I have had a very relatively comfortable life. I haven't really struggled. So, what MBA gave me was artificial adversity. It gave me an environment where I could push myself to the limit, where I could test my abilities, and could fail or succeed in that controlled environment. And that really gives you so much confidence. Like right now, if my manager asks me to grind all night and give me a presentation in the morning, I can do that because I've already done that. So I have that belief in myself. I think Raghuram Rajan in his keynote address to in IIM Ahmedabad, being an alumni himself of IIM Ahmedabad, he told the students that whenever there is some, I might be misquoting him, sorry about that. He sort of said that every time he's confronted with something difficult, he thinks back to the time of his first term at IIM Ahmedabad. And if he has survived that, he can almost definitely survive anything. So I think that's an interesting perspective that MBA really, the journey really gave me. So there are other few decisions like why I went into finance, why I did a CFA, why not a family business, which you can come to later if time permits. But for now, let me circle back to the main topic, the transition from campus to corporate and the skills I think we ought to develop starting now to smoothen that transition. So let me give you a brief story before that. So uh, if some of you might not be aware of this, but in when you start your MBA, mostly you get so there is a summer internship between the 2 years of MBA, and for that process, the companies come within the first term itself. So you get into an MBA, you start your studies, and within the 2 months, companies are already lining up for the summer internship at the end of the first year, and the interview prep and everything all that starts again. So a classmate of mine who is an engineering fresher, he got placed in a very coveted investment banking role, uh, core finance role. And I'm thinking about myself, yeah, see, I for 3 years I did attend classes. I learned monetary policy, fiscal policy from Seema ma'am. इससे तो ISLM मॉडल का आई भी नहीं आता होगा. So why was he chosen over me? But over time, I interacted with this person, and we worked on group assignments as well. And then it hit me that this is a very sharp fellow. He's a hard worker. He's a person who thinks on his feet. He's good at communicating his point of view. So I realized that the recruiters were actually looking for his potential, and they were looking at his skills and not necessarily just the finance knowledge that he has. See, you can teach finance and economics and the concepts in a relatively short period of time, but the ability to structure your thoughts and give a well presented analysis in a short period of time, or to convince a group of people who have a divergent opinion, these skills take a much longer time to develop and is not everyone's cup of tea. I can teach you the capital structure theories in 2 sessions, but I can't teach you. No one in the world can teach you the skills, not even Tony Robbins. So they must have seen his past achievements and realized that, yeah, yes, this person has this potential, and even if we throw him into the deep end of the pool, he can swim and come back unharmed. So uh, in the future, you could be working on a startup, you could be working in a family business. You could have a creative pursuit entirely, or you could be like me and working in finance. But I'll be mentioning two skills which you can develop now, which will help you in any field. It's not necessarily just from campus to corporate, but if you want to be a professional in any pursuit, uh, and the best part about these skills is you can start building and working upon them now, and you definitely should. So these aren't unknown to you. These are very common, but I'll try to give my perspective on these skills. So the first one being critical thinking, and the second one being communication skills. So let's dive into critical thinking. So five or about 10 years ago, there was information asymmetry. So you couldn't really get good advice or counseling on many of the fields or the professions. Today, we actually have the opposite problem. There is a glut or overabundance of information. So it is hard to get good specific advice. We live in a hyper connected world, and we see all the information overload and the problems like fake news that come with these. So critical thinking, applying the filter to that information, and taking an unbiased view of that information. You have to separate the fact and the truth from the opinion, and then come to a logical conclusion itself. I know these sounds like buzzwords, but I'll try to break them down a little. It's very important to question the credibility of the information you are getting and controlling the flow of information. So if you are getting your news, political news from Facebook, that is not a good source. uh, just an example. And I'd even say, don't even follow the advice that I am giving today blindly. We each have our own unique circumstances, and every advice comes with a disclaimer. Like if you see the mutual fund sahi hai ad, even they give a disclaimer that mutual fund schemes are subject to market risk. Read scheme related documents carefully. So I don't want you to be a victim of bad or irrelevant advice. No one wants to mislead you with bad advice. It's just that the context is very important. You need to get the whole perspective. So that's why even when I was sharing my experience, I was trying to tell you my thought process of how I arrived at those decisions, and maybe some of those criteria might resonate with you because I have been in the same shoes as you. So I'll give you another example. So during my first year of MBA, my seniors told me, looking at my CV, that yeah, you have done a BCom from a good institution, you have good grades, finance, you will definitely get all the finance shortlists. So I took this advice a little too on face value and became more overconfident. So I did not end up applying for good companies from other domains like maybe marketing or consulting where I was still interested in. And I think some in hindsight that was a very risky move. It worked out, but that was a very risky move. So uh, think about your own unique circumstances and the circumstances and the context of the person who is giving you advice, and then only apply that advice. So to sum this up, there is a very interesting quote from the legendary martial artist Bruce Lee. You absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. And I think this is a very great advice on taking advice. So I'll move on to the next skill, which is communication skills. I won't be spending much time here. I'm not an expert, and I know most of you have seen TED Talks or there are other persons to address this. I'll just share some of my experiences and my views. So some common myths. See, you don't need to be speaking Queen's English or using very flowery language or having perfect pronunciation to be a good orator. Communication essentially means meeting of two minds. What you are trying to say or imply, that connects to the speaker in that manner in which you intended it to be. That's the main thing. So like as an MBA, as a CFA, uh, we learn a lot of finance jargon, capital structure, this theory, that theory. So in my job, I had a client ask me, why don't you give me a higher rating? So I'll try to explain, if you're interested, what a rating is later. Basically, I review companies based on the financials and give a grade like A grade, B grade, or whatever that is. So he asked me in simple Hindi, मेरी रेटिंग कैसे ऊपर जाएगी आप मुझे बताइए, ये सब मुझे थ्योरी नहीं आती. तो सो आई कांट हाइड बिहाइंड जार्गन नाउ. आई हैव टू टेल हिम सर आपका रेवेन्यू 100 करोड़ है, आपके कंपेटिटर का इतना है, आपका प्रॉफिट इतना है, इससे ये जाएगा. तो देन बिकॉज नंबर्स डोंट लाई, only then I can explain to him. I can't hide behind jargon. So this reminds me of a scene from a movie from our alumni, Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. I think it was Namak Halal, correct me if I'm wrong, that he speaks very faratedar English to prove his point कि आती हमें भी है, but not to give that impression. So moving to actionable advice on how to improve the communication skills. See, uh, listening to all the podcasts and TED Talks or Tony Robbins speeches won't help you improve. You have to take action. Repeated exposure is the only way to go. See, no one asked me that I was in Comsoc in any of my interviews, but the I remember on one of the first days, my senior just pushed me into this room and told ki give him a sponsorship pitch, and I stumbled and whatever. I did it 2 more times. I did it 4 more times, and the next day I was able to give sponsorship pitches myself. So that's the only way to do that. You can join Toastmasters, you can join any other course, or you can make groups and discuss and debate issues among yourselves, even on Zoom. So that's my advice for that. And to end, I'll just give you a personal challenge that I faced in this transition from campus to corporate. So uh, I was 22 when I completed my MBA. Right now I'm 24. So my role requires talking to clients as well, and sometimes, like suppose on Monday, I have a call with the MD and the CFO of a company which has an annual turnover of over 4,000 crores and it's a listed company. So we have to convince them on the industry view, business, and financials. I won't bore you with all that, but I couldn't imagine doing this a few years ago. Even right now, I get slightly nervous, even talking to you all. No lie there. But you have to believe in yourself. See, it can be, for me, it was intimidating as a 22, 23-year-old trying to put my point or my view forward to people in the room who have more experience in that domain than my age combined. It was very daunting. But slowly you get exposed to that. Your peers tell you, yeah, you have relevant points to contribute. You have to, it's more of a mental block. Competence isn't determined by age. So uh, I just needed to have that conviction in myself. It was more of a mental barrier, and I think I have overcome that now slightly. So uh, with this, I'd like to open the floor for Q&A, and I think uh, there are some questions in the chat. I'll try to address those questions, and after that, we can have a live Q&A. I'd like to see your faces and actually interact if possible. So yeah, thanks. So a first question from Lalit: how is your CFA journey after MBA? So Lalit, the requirement for a CFA exam is, I think, just to have a graduation degree. You can actually, if you're a third year student, you can actually apply for the CFA level 1 even before going to an MBA. So I graduated in May 2017. I appeared for my first level of CFA exam in December, and the second level after I completed my MBA. And I think I was interested in finance, so it's definitely a good value add. Uh, and another interesting aspect is that CFA is not only the certification or the subject knowledge, but like this alum network, there is also CFA alum network. So they have various events, speaker sessions, networking sessions. So even that helps a lot, I think. So fresher package you should expect. See, you can all see the placement reports. Many of them are audited also on the average salary, and this is not really a question I'd like to answer. It all depends on the domain, your expertise, and where you are graduating from. And also, I think, personally speaking, that shouldn't be a priority when you are starting your career. The learning and the domain you are interested in, that should be the priority. So when to start MBA prep from Masoom? Masoom, it all depends on you. I have had friends who have studied for like 2 months and still scored 99 percentile in CAT. There are people who uh, study for years but might not crack because it's general aptitude. I can't teach you logical reasoning to an extent, and it all depends on you. See, start now, give a few mocks, and then you can see if you need coaching or any other help, or maybe you'll even realize that this is not for you. So there's that element to that. Is it necessary to do 3 years of internship for CFA? uh, Please go to the CFA website. I didn't have any work experience or internship before. I had an internship, but I don't think that's a requirement to get the CFA charter. Like, if you want to put CFA before your name, you need to clear all the 3 levels of examination and have 48 months of relevant work experience. But please check the official site for those requirements. Uh, what's the job scenario in post-pandemic India from non-STEM? See, this is a very see. One thing I'll advise you before you ask any questions. Please keep your questions a little more specific. If you ask broad questions, then you'll get broad answers, and they won't work for you. So, job scenario. I mean, which sector are you talking about? Uh, what is your level of employment post pandemic? See, some sectors are doing well, tech is doing well, some have recovered, others have not. So I cannot answer on that, sorry. You were in how many societies in KMC? I was just part of the commerce society, and I don't think the amount of societies matter. It's just the work you do and the exposure you get that matters. I had friends who were in an actors, they were in FIC. Some friends weren't into societies. They thought internships would be better a value add for them. So it really depends on you, and it's not about the number of societies that really matters. uh, we can also take live if someone wants to unmute or be visible. We can take live questions simultaneously.
So hi Shubham. So I think I'll
Yeah.
use this floor for a general discussion first, and then we'll move on to the academics part because academics is
Mhm.
boring. I mean, so
Sure.
I mean, so let's start with you mentioned. I mean, I'm really impressed by the fact that you mentioned about the plethora of information and the problem
Mhm.
our generation is facing. I mean, the Gen Z specifically, that we're consuming a lot of bad information, right? So Facebook has become a point of trigger in Myanmar for say communal violence, or let's say in Indonesia, and they're not stopping at any cost, right? So I think so. What do you think that we can do as a generation to stop all this communal violence and stop the spreading of this bad information? How do we stop ourselves from consuming this? And I mean, saying that, oh, I won't be on social media is, I mean, won't work now because everyone knows everything about us. And I mean, there are algorithms that are tracking our activity online, so they know what we're interested in and then they show what we want to see. So I mean, so just in general, how do you propose that it's not just about us but about the society? How do we stop our society from consuming all the bad information and then take wrong actions further?
Interesting question. Uh, I might not be able to give you a very nuanced perspective on this. See, personally, I think journalism and good journalism is very important now. What you can do is verify your sources from where you are getting information. Put a stop to see. Don't take political news from random forums or WhatsApp forwards. That's why I mentioned critical
What?
thinking. Important. It's very important. And I think uh, you also mentioned about the fact of privacy, and I think privacy is another issue completely. And that's an interesting discussion we can have some other time, maybe offline. Uh, But I think many companies are cognizant of all these areas. These are coming into the picture, and there are good discussions and legislations happening. And let's see what happens, what the future holds. But yeah, Malab, that is a very big problem, because it's easy to manipulate people. Sadly,
And
not
I
every.
mean, especially through screens. It's
Right.
easier to manipulate people through screens rather than talking to them face to face, which is, I mean, it's just sad to say the least. Um, so I mean, as uh, so I mean, first of all, and then secondly, you said that you were only part of the, and you believe in, I mean, the quality of work rather than quantity of societies. I know people who believe in the quantity aspect, and they've joined hundreds of societies. And so how do you propose that we as freshers make the most out of this opportunity? Like, I'm part of just one society, and so what do you think I should do to, maximize my exposure and gain the best amount of knowledge and, I mean, skill set I can?
Mhm. So I'll try to address the number of societies aspect first. I think what students are thinking is just adding points to my CV. I want to fill up my CV. I want to buff up my CV. I want to show this and that and that. But in honestly, in all my interviews, no one really asked me what you did in ComSoc or anything like that. What matters is uh, how you leverage ComSoc to build my own interpersonal skills or other skills or explore things I wanted to. So I think ComSoc was a good society for me back then, because I was not even half the speaker I am today. I remember I was very nervous giving a sales pitch or a sponsorship pitch, how to design events. So, and also the network, the seniors connect was really helped out. Even beyond the society work, reach out to your seniors, any people who you connect with or you appreciate their perspective on things. So building that network, and that is more important, I think, and that's the purpose of these societies. And if you really want to work on a specific skill or sector, I'll always suggest you to go for internships over any societies and all.
Perfect. So, I mean, just the last question, the academics one, I mean, the boring one. So, you said you said you did an MBA in finance, if I'm not wrong, right?
uh, so in IIMs, you don't really have a specification. So, Malab, you don't have a specialization. Sorry, my degree does not say MBA in finance. So the first year, all the subjects are common across the batches. In the second year, you get to choose your electives. So let's say I'll take more finance electives now that I understand this is where my interest lies, or I'll pursue a CFA as well, to so that I come into the notice of the finance companies and distinguish that yeah, this is a guy who is serious for finance and he wants to make this career there.
Oh, I mean, you already answered my future question, so that's great. I mean, thanks a lot. So,
Yeah.
how, if I want to connect to you, I mean, how do I do that?
Um, hit me on LinkedIn,
Perfect.
anyone. Sure.
Cool. Thanks a lot for
Also
answering
take
my
email
question.
from me, email or phone number.
Yeah, you can. Ma'am, I'd
Surely,
rather
ma'am.
not you share my phone number,
Okay.
but email
Email
or
can be.
LinkedIn, definitely, definitely.
Okay, fine.
I
So,
think there are
thanks a
some
lot,
questions
Shubham.
on my. Sure, Nishkarsh. I'll get to the question in the chat. How to get quality internship for a fresher? See, I think there are a lot of websites, Internshala, and all that. See, quality is a very subjective word. And mind you, even after a MBA or anything, everyone has to do some level of grunt work. I think I attended the first panel talk where Shweta, I think she mentioned that she did work like social media platforms and getting likes and sponsorships. So you have to start somewhere, right? See, if you have contacts or if you have a very good CV, please leverage that. But you'll have to start somewhere. Uh, so I'll move on to the next. What should be my skill set on day one of my consulting job? So first of all, I'd like to congratulate you if you have landed a consulting job from campus. Skill set. I think the most important aspect for a consultant, I think there will be two things. Learning quickly, because you'll be you will be working on a lot of different industries, and you'll have to catch up very quickly. Like, I'd say my job is sort of similar. One day I'll be reviewing a cycles manufacturer, the next day a hospital. So you'll have to learn quickly on the sector, and the ability to clearly structure your thoughts and articulate them, because you are essentially being paid for advice or solving a complex problem. So breaking down that problem uh, and all that, you can see there are a lot of case studies and case interviews online. And I think someone like Sakshi from I am Lucknow, I think if I'm not wrong, she joined Bain. She'll be in a much better position to guide you on consulting. uh, is it worth it to go for coaching and MBA than starting your own business? Like you make, please correct me. What's your thought on this? Mm, it's not really so simple for coaching and MBA and then starting. See, coaching and MBA, coaching, I think I've already addressed my thoughts on that. Starting entrepreneurship post MBA, it really depends on what kind of business you are into. Learn practically. I think I remember many people in even in campuses and B schools, you have these entrepreneurship cells, and you even have the options to opt for less subjects and instead work on your own venture in the second year. So maybe you can try that and maybe look for MBAs that uh, offer that entrepreneurship opportunity or the location where you can leverage that. That will really depend. Mistakes, and yeah, I agree, you only learn from your experiences. What is more interesting, CFA or MBA? See, MBA is scratching the surf, being uh, good at everything, uh, but touching the only the surface. CFA is going deeper into finance, so it depends on what you are interested in. uh, for finance, yeah, CFA is definitely a good certification to have in finance. And where should one should prepare for GDPR rounds? I think this has already been addressed in the first speaker session very thoroughly and comprehensively from actually four people. So that will give you a much better picture. And I urge you to ask Abhimanyu or someone for that saved recording of that session.
That I would like to share with you, Shubham, and other participants, that the video will be uploaded on the YouTube channel of KMC.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, soon we'll be uploading all the videos.
What skills do I need for being an investment banker? So I'll guide you to a resource. I'll just type it in the chat. Guides, World Career Guides. So you can download these guides off the internet. So what they do is they try to so there'll be like a World Career Guide for investment banking, for say sales and marketing, for consulting, and these are very comprehensive. They'll give you a basic idea of all the skills you need to the basic skills you need, uh, what actually an investment banking is, what it entails. So like this is a very broad question. I could even take a half an hour talk in this topic, and we can definitely connect offline, Faizan, for this. uh, yeah. So okay, if no one has any other questions, meanwhile I'll try to address one more topic: why I ended up in finance, or why did I choose finance. And maybe if someone has any other question, then we can continue this. So I was already so. Firstly, I'd urge you guys to take this personality test called MBTI. Myers-Briggs personality test. Just for general, I'm not saying that an MBTI test is a good indicator to tell you which job you would match up in, but it will really try to help your personality introspect about who you are. So if anyone knows, I am an ISTJ. So I stands for introverted. So I knew I couldn't really do jobs that are solely people oriented, like maybe HR or core sales. So, and I really didn't want to get into a very specific sector as such. Like, let's say, uh, I'm working in a pharmaceuticals company or an auto company. So, the two choices for me were finance or consulting by elimination. And I already had a fascination and exposure to finance in BCom honors. And when you realize when you get into a B school, the environment is so competitive that you want to capitalize on any advantage you already have. So I just built my CV around finance, and it all worked out on me. And also, what actually got me hooked on finance. So there was a guest lecturer. He was a very good trader, I think, into equity research. Those people who in equity research who will publish those buy, sell, hold reports on stocks and companies. So he shared a very interested perspective. He said, "I am not a finance guy. I am not a stockbroker. I'm into the business of looking at other businesses." So even me, when I'm doing a rating, I was working on a cycles company. I'll work in for a hospital. Right now, I'm working for a telecommunication infrastructure player. So get exposure to a lot of diverse fields, and it becomes very interesting and dynamic. So okay, let me share a quick uh, thing. So when the pandemic struck, so we had to revisit all my portfolio of companies. So like let's say PVR is a client of mine, and we all know the theaters are only now gradually opening up with full capacity. And I think only 3-4 months back they were allowed to open at 50% capacity. So he's your client. You know there are going to be no revenues for the foreseeable future. So now how do I build that model? Like we read about fixed cost structure, like even if there are zero revenues, I still have to pay rent, you still have to pay salaries. uh, so now you have to put that into application, and really these aspects really excite me. Like it's very dynamic, and yeah, I think I'm hooked on finance now. So I'll just take some few questions on the chat. Will courses like machine learning and AI be helpful for finance job? Uh, yeah, I think definitely machine learning and AI are here to stay, and there are a lot of good startups and research being done for in fintech and automating these processes and all. But I think it's still a long way to go. These skills would be good to have, complementary skills, but I don't know whether if you do an AI ML course right now, and that would help you land a finance job immediately. Good test. I don't. Is it mix of big five? Yeah, I think this is MBTI test only. Big five is another test you can use. That's also an interesting one. I don't know how to. I know how to study a company, and I'm a trader too. Like I should know together. Who would hire me? Faizan, I urge you to network more. I'm sure you have been doing that, on leverage your networks on LinkedIn, apply on Naukri.com. I think it's a very hard time. I know my batchmate who took like 4 or 5 months to get a job despite having a very good profile and a master's in finance. So hang in there. My best wishes with you, and try to leverage LinkedIn, try to talk to alums, uh, get on, apply, keep applying, and don't lose heart. I know rejection can be tough. Any other live questions from the audience? Otherwise, that's it from my side.
Hello Shubham, just an interruption. We missed a question from Harshit. It says, does IB forms which comes in B schools prefer CFA candidates over others?
Okay, so CFA is definitely a value add because investment banking is a core finance field. But I don't think that they'll shortlist you based on just that. So IB firms, they'll want a spark in your CV. Maybe you are an IIT topper, or you have been very consistent with your grades and demonstrated high achievement. Uh, so see, yeah, if we compare two people, let's say my profile and my profile with the CFA level 2, then they might prefer the profile with CFA level 2, but it's not a very big differentiator. It definitely is one, but not a very big one, I'd say. And also, I'd like to give one more perspective. Uh, Try to think from the recruiter's perspective as well, like I mentioned previously. Uh, like, what are your deliverables in an IB firm? Like, and then try to reverse engineer that, like, what kind of people would they want? And try to get into a recruiter's mind. So that will help you answer questions of these skills in every field for any job. I'm doing a CMA US thoughts on CMA. Sorry, Faizan. That is a question I cannot answer. I have no clue about CMA. Sorry.
If anyone has any other question, please come forward. Okay, till then, I have a question, Shubham. I
Sure, sure.
wanted to know, like, if as we are soon going to, get into this corporate space, so
Hmm.
some general kind of advice or something which you expect that we should keep in mind, because we are just directly, campus and then corporate. Something which we should know or we should keep in mind while working.
See, a lot of it depends on your exposure. Uh, Being professional, sticking to your word, some punctuality, working with others, all these things matters much more. uh, so if you have already done an internship, you have been in a society, that will really help you. So it's just that, but more structured in corporate. uh, you'll have to work on others timelines, and don't worry too much. They also know you are freshers, and they'll treat you as freshers and train you as such. uh, and just don't overthink it.
Okay, thank you. We have a question in the chat box.
Packages of IPM and CAT stud. Okay, you mean MBA, since I'm Indore has a integrated 5-year program. See, this is not a very straightforward question. So yeah, placements are the same. For IPM and CAT students, we appear for the same uh, placements, but since IPM students are freshers, and if you compare the normal MBA students, many of them will have work experience. So in general, so generally put, people with work experience will be eligible for better jobs, or will have a higher package. But I don't think recruiters really discriminate on the basis between an MBA fresher like me, I was a BCom fresher, and between an IPM fresher for the same job. uh, See, obviously, if you're an IIT graduate, or if you're a KMC or SRCC graduate, they might consider that as a highlight. But I don't think they will discriminate between an IPM or a another field fresher, at least. Is I am worth it because we may have to. I'm going for normal MBA. Faizan, okay, so have you so you must have studied present value when we calculate net present value for any finance project or anything. So we discount all the future streams of income today. So I don't have the data on whether other B schools fees cost a lot more. But even if the fees for IIM is say 5 lakh more, you have to look at the future opportunities which it will unlock. Firstly, on average, you'll have a better package, and all your increments will be based on that. You'll have access to more opportunities. So if you discount the future value of those opportunities to now, I think it's not even close. Uh, any day you'll want to go for the better brand or the best school you can. Is taking a loan worth it? Again, a very broad question. It will depend on many things. You can start business with that money. Of course, if you have an idea and uh, that you have that conviction that you can invest in your idea and do, go for that leap if you want. I don't think it's an ROI issue of business versus an MBA. It's more a career driven and depends on the person. You can't really calculate the ROI that easily. There are many other factors to keep in mind, Faizan. Sorry, and please repeat the name of the test. It's called it's called MBTI indicator, I think, and it's the Briggs Myers personality personality test. These are the names of the researchers. Yeah.
Can I ask one more thing, please?
Sure, Nishkarsh. I'm not short on time.
That's cool. I mean, that's really cool. So, I mean, to Faizan's point, he mentioned the loan thing. I mean, it's not. I don't want to mention the loan thing, but and it's a very broad question. You can totally choose to ignore it if you want. What, according to you, what
Mhm.
is better in today's time? A personal MBA, like start your own business, go out there and learn and keep learning, or actually go to an institute and then theoretically build yourself first and then move forward.
A lot of it will depend on
I
what
mean, there's
type of
obviously a lot of
business.
factors, and
Yeah.
you, so
Uh,
so
See.
it's just
Hmm.
so I want you to answer this question keeping in mind the fact that now there's a lot of competition, and I mean, to be really blunt, there is,
Mhm.
and there's no avoiding the competition and going around it and saying that, oh, I found a loophole, I can do this like that. No, there is no loophole right now, because students have become so competitive right now, and it's just so for me it's like another era of brain drain is starting. So again, back to my question, what do you think is better, the personal MBA route, or learning it theoretically from an institute?
Uh, I'll give you an alternate perspective on this. I think the younger you are, the more risk appetite you have. So if you have an idea and if you want to try the market right now, go ahead and please test it. You'll fail, you will learn, and don't worry about the gap year or anything. Personally, if I was a recruiter and I see someone is a budding entrepreneur, he has a business idea and plan versus someone who has done a job, I wouldn't discount the person who uh, or I wouldn't prefer the person who did the job over the person who tried to do his own business. So don't worry about that. And after you take the MBA, so we have this concept of opportunity cost, right? So
Mhm.
let me put it this way: right now you are a graduate, so a year of you not working is maybe 3 to 5 lakhs per month. Sorry, per annum. Of if you are not working in a, let's say, a job, but post MBA, your opportunity cost will dramatically go up. It will maybe somewhere like 12 to 15 lakhs. And I see people do become complacent. And even if they might have that entrepreneurial fire at the start, they might tend towards jobs only after graduating with a loan, or there might be other pressures and this opportunity cost increases. But an MBA will allow you to really get that network, get that funding. See, if I say I am Indore versus you say you are not from Indore, any investor will give me funding first. Matlab, that's a that's a given. So you can't really quantify these factors, and this is not an easy answer. But yeah, these are my 2 cents on the question.
I mean, that was technically more than 2 cents. I mean, that was worth a lot. But again, it's a personal question, and you can totally choose to ignore it. What's your take on entrepreneurship? Are you planning on taking that journey, or keep up with the corporate side? And I mean, whatever the answer is, can you please explain why you chose the other one over the other one?
Sure. And I think the why is much more important and relevant than the what. So I think, given my personality, I like to, at least initially, so right now, maybe that might change 5 years, 10 years from now. I like to learn in a more professional environment, in a more structured field. And I think I'm more suited for a profession than a business. So even down the line, if I want to do a business, it will be more like I'll make my own finance firm, or I'll be an independent consultant of some sort, or a freelancer, and not really a traditional business per se. And I think in terms of entrepreneurship, so it's really a myth that you can't be entrepreneurial within a company. So there are many companies which offer you that opportunity. So I knew a batchmate who joined, I think, Philips. You think that Philips is just a traditional company and all. He started in finance and accounting, and then dheere dheere he went into the data science field and the machine learning and all, and they were investing, and he's leading projects there now. So you can be entrepreneurial within a company as well, and many of them are working on exciting upcoming things. You'll see all these banks are hiring fintech startups to automate or whatever. You could be, maybe you could be the person spearheading that project within that organization, or so that's my take on the matter.
Oh, I understand. I mean, thanks a lot again. So
Sure,
really
interesting
looking
question,
forward.
Discuss. Yeah.
Do we have further questions? Anyone?
I think
And we can always connect offline. Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. We can always connect offline if you have some personal question or a very specific concern that you do not want to bring up right now. You can always connect me on LinkedIn or shoot an email, and I'll try to give my perspective or guide you, what you can do, even if I don't know the answer. Yeah.
So I just wanted to tell you, Shubham, that Nishkarsh is my first year student, first semester.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's
Nishkarsh, I wasn't half 1/10 confident as you are right now. That's surprising,
but
actually.
then again, it's not about confidence. When I meet people, I mean, when I meet people like you, so it's just a natural connect that flows, and it's really easy to strike a conversation per se. And so I'm not that confident, but again, when I meet people like you, and I'm the smart kind, so it's about the natural connect. So it's not about the confidence.
Yeah, it's good to have this trait. I think that will really help you going forward as well. Yeah.
So he's an interesting person. At the same time, he makes our sessions so interactive and participative. Others too have to come forward.
Yeah, I think Nishkarsh asked doubts yesterday as well, and
every
he
day.
has some good questions. Yeah.
And even in the classes, he keeps you occupied.
Yeah, it's good to keep the presenter on the toes as well. Even we also learn from the learning goes both ways, actually, I'd say.
That's true. So now I think if there are no more questions, so I think Nikita, this is the time for us to arrive at some nishkarsh.
Yes. Okay. So, as all good things come to an end in life, so will this seminar. On behalf of our renowned institution, Kirorimal College, University of Delhi, I take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to this seminar on transition from campus to corporate world, session by Mr. Shubham Agarwal, a proud alumnus of our historical institution. At the outset, I thank our chief guest and resource person, Mr. Shubham. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence. Also, we are very thankful to our honorable site supporting pillar, Dr. Seema Joshi ma'am. Furthermore, I would like to thank our principal, Professor Vibha Singh Chauhan, for her enthusiastic and constant support, and also for guiding the pathway in our lives to go out and achieve the best of the best. A special thanks to the organizing committee, teaching and non-teaching staff for their unflinching support and coordination. Also, our heartfelt thanks to our students for their active participation. With these warm words and a kind message, we move to the end of today's seminar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shubham. Thank you so much.